Boston College is in desperate need of a quarterback. I have two targets that they should go after that would be absolute home runs for the Eagles.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for Boston College news, analysis, and details on your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. We are a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, we'll talk a little bit about that good old transfer portal. Things are crazy out there right now. BC needs a quarterback. I have two names they're going to have to go after. Both of them would be home runs if they can get them. And what about this Notre Dame thing? How bad is that for the Fighting Irish in the ACC? I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. And now we know the story of Dylan Larnagin. He's gone. The BC quarterback room is definitely not as deep as it needs to be, as you have Shaker Rising and two freshmen. You're not going into next year with that. You may hear from the staff that they're happy with that. We all know they need another quarterback, and that quarterback needs to be somebody with experience. You have to do that. You cannot go into next year with just Shaker Rising. You can't. So it's not a surprise that BC's name is out there looking at quarterbacks. Now, what I'm seeing already should really get Boston College fans excited. The names that I've seen BC linked to are high-end quarterbacks. Now, are they going to be able to close the deal on them? Who knows? But what really caught my eye was a tweet today by Tom Loy of 247 Sports. Now, Tom was asked about one quarterback, and we'll get into him in just a minute. But he also mentioned he had a very vague answer about another name that he couldn't give the answer out to who BC's looking at. So to me, that just says this guy's probably still on someone's roster. Now, the point of today's show is not to get into who that could be. My point of the show is to talk about two names that I think BC are going to be heavily involved in. The first is someone from Harvard. Yes, Harvard. And before you poo-poo a guy that plays at Harvard, you need to hear about Jaden Craig. Jaden Craig, this last year, threw for 2,430 yards and 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He's 6'3", and he's made he was a first-year starter this year for Harvard, and he's listed as a potential NFL caliber quarterback from Harvard. How many other quarterbacks from Harvard have gone to the NFL other than Ryan Fitzpatrick? Don't text me. Don't send it to me. I know there's probably someone I'm missing. But he led the Crimson to an 8-2 record while ranking 7th in the FCS in yards per completion and 10th in passing efficiency. And then his coach, Andrew Arick, said he's super talented, really strong arm, and really good runner, but we don't need to use him that way last year. High football IQ, loves to study tape. And the former head coach, Tim Murphy, says he's the best he's seen since Ryan Fitzpatrick. Watch his film. I know you if you don't know Harvard, and unless you like Ivy League football, and God bless you if you do, you probably haven't seen his tape, but watch him. He's mobile. He moves well. He's not like Lamar Jackson or Tyler Murphy mobile, but he's much more mobile than Dylan Larnagin. And even more mobile than, I would say, Grayson James. He's 6'3", he's got good size, he's big. The big issue here, there's two things you got to consider. How is he going to be if he makes that jump? Well, he's thrown a whole bunch of passes, so he knows how to run the offense, so that's good. But he's doing it at the FCS level. He's doing it at the Ivy League level. But what I've heard, the buzz I've heard around Jaden Craig, who is, I believe, originally from New Jersey, is that he's going to get high-level Power 4 offers. To me, that could be anyone from LSU to Penn State. There's a lot of big programs out there. They're going to be looking for quarterbacks. So I would bet you BC is involved because I see a lot of folks saying that they should be, and I bet they will be. But how much is this new, having Kenyatta Watson there, spending more money? Will this pay off at the quarterback position? Will they be able to go out there and get a guy like Jaden Craig? Jaden Craig is going to be, right now at 247, he's the number 3 ranked quarterback in the class, in the transfer portal class. Now, a lot of the big names haven't entered yet. There's guys like CJ Bailey. There's guys all over the country that may enter at some point. Even Dylan Larnigan's not on there yet in terms of being ranked, but he's number 3. He is ranked a high 3-star. It's going to get higher for him because he's going to get a ton of interest. If you watch him throw, this is the guy of any quarterback I've seen so far, I think is the best fit for Bill O'Brien's system. Like, he's smart, he's accurate, he can make decisions, he can move the ball, he's got a good arm. These are all things you need. So Jaden Craig, I think for folks that don't follow the portal, will be, why do I care? It's a guy from Harvard. And I get that. Like I'm not asking you to know, but for the folks that have looked into it and started to understand more about it, and especially the folks, I got to say, I want to shout out, there was someone who was chatting with me, Corey S., who said he put me on to Jaden Craig yesterday, and he goes, dude, you got to check this guy out. And I was like, I started poo-pooing it until I watched this film, and I'm like, Corey, you're right. You're right. I'll only yell on that one. This guy looks really legit, and I would love to see him in maroon and gold. I think this would be a great fit. You bring in, you have him build Shaker Rising during camp. He's only there for 1 year, which then leads you into next year. When you bring in Shaker Rising in his 3rd year, boom, you've got your succession going. You're right back on track after losing Dylan Larnigan. How much money is he going to take, though? And what is he looking for? If he's looking to go to a big program, you have no chance. You just don't. Like, if he wants to go play at an elite, Big Ten or SEC school, good luck. There's going to be a lot of schools out there looking for quarterbacks, and you're BC. But if you can sell it to him, if you can have Kenyatta Watson play, run his magic, maybe you get something there. Maybe this could get your foot in the door and you could land him. Because right now, of all the quarterbacks that I've heard listed and, as potential fits for BC, this is the one that intrigues me the most. I like what Jaden Craig could do for BC, because I think if he jumps up that level, he's going to be one of those, guys that transcends jumping a professional level here and will be fine. And he'll be really good. He looks like a winner to me. That's the thing about Jaden Craig that I see, is that you watch him, he plays the winner. That intangible thing that you see, like, he makes the plays, but he wins and wins and wins. That's what I want at BC. I think this guy's a home run. Now, what about if you can't land him? Who could be someone else BC could go after? Another name entered the portal, and I'll explain who that is, who has a higher pedigree, in just a moment. The holidays come with 2 big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they'll actually love. And when you want both handled in one move, Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. Right, because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you can stock up and save big in a huge way. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, and it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 with the code COLLEGE at checkout. I had been sent and I hope I get another one, a Omaha Steak box that was with a delicious steak. Oh my gosh, I'm hungry right now. I should have eaten before I made this podcast. Their steaks are perfectly aged and insanely tender. It's restaurant level at home with glazed burgers, meals, sides, desserts. You can build a box for yourself, and with Save Big, you can save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale, and for an extra $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com, code COLLEGE. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black here, and I want to make sure that you know about our new Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Boston College your first listen every day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you're a true diehard Boston College fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with me, AJ. You want to yell at me on text? You can do that. You get free access to me. Sometimes I don't respond on Twitter. Sometimes I don't respond elsewhere, but I do to all my people on text. Now you get an exclusive newsletter, 15% off discount to the Locked On merch store. Head to lockedonbostoncollege.supercast.com. Again, that's lockedonbostoncollege.supercast.com. Get yourself signed up. You can find the link in the show notes. Become part of our all access team. I would love to see you there. Get yourself that Christmas present. Become an all access member of Locked On Boston College. Now, we're talking about quarterbacks, and I really do believe BC needs to make a splash here. This could be the moment where Boston College solidifies themselves as, hey, we're going to take that road that Georgia Tech, that Virginia took by getting ourselves a premier player or a solid, good player that can help us win now. I go back to what Duke did. Duke, they spent money and they brought in Darian Mensah, and where they won the ACC championship. They weren't even all that great. They were 7-5, but they got there. There's no reason BC can't do that either if they do a better job. That's why I think a quarterback that I saw linked to BC as well, and this is the one Tom Loy was mentioning, this is a guy that could be a great number 2 for BC, and that is Kenny Minchey. Kenny Minchey of Notre Dame. This is a 6'2 quarterback who just lost the starting job to CJ Carr this year by a smidgen. Now he is, excuse me, if you were to go to 247 right now, he is the #1 quarterback in the transfer portal, in the #3 recruit transfer overall, and Tom Loy has BC as the favorites right now. Mind blown. Are things really changing? Or is BC going to be able to go out there and really go after guys like this? Like, look, Dylan Lonergan came last year, and yeah, he was a 4-star coming out of high school, but he did nada. And he wasn't really even in the conversation at Alabama to be a starter. He was just kind of, as I said, I've said it on this podcast before he even got here, he was buried on the depth chart. You hoped you could get something out of him, and you did for an extent. Kenny Minchey was right there as a potential starter for Notre Dame. He played a bunch this year too. And I imagine Notre Dame would have loved to keep him. So he's mobile. He is a guy that can do a whole lot for you in terms of his arm. And I want to read Cooper Petanya's draft analysis of him. He possesses a quick release and strong arm, capable of making every throw on the field, exhibits natural instincts and on the move outside the pocket as a passer, demonstrates the ability to consistently play with touch and anticipation, while showing the ability to throw his receivers open. An instinctive passer that has a knack for understanding how to extend plays with the pocket, with his subtle athleticism and ability to keep his eyes downfield as play developed. He had threw for 73% of his passes as a senior, a savvy pocket passer with excellent game management skills, projects to be a high-level multi-year starter at the Power 5 level, has an understanding of the position, and possesses the game quickly. That, to me, just like Craig, sounds like the kind of quarterback Bill O'Brien would like. We've mentioned Deuce Knight on the show before because of the Kenyatta-Watson connection. He's a different kind of quarterback. He's much more mobile. He's much more an improviser. Minchey seems like the kind of guy that would fit into what O'Brien wants to do. A guy that is efficient, the guy that can read the offenses, that can extend plays. That's all the kind of things that you want here. So the fact that BC is involved in this is a great thing. I mean, how many times have we gone into an offseason, especially the portal or even recruiting? You get a bigger name, BC is never part of that picture. You get guys, it took, I think, Phil Drake was probably the big one you got. And that took a relationship with Frank Signetti at that point to get him here. You have a guy now in Kenyatta Watson who is connected to way more. Now, Kenny Minchey is from Tennessee, so I'm not sure if he's going to look for SEC types of schools. But he also, if he's down there, he knows Kenyatta Watson. He knows him. So this could be another answer at quarterback. This is where things are at. I think this is probably my second favorite quarterback. You're going to say, AJ, you're just liking everybody. I don't like everybody. There's certain quarterbacks in this class that I'm not the biggest fan on. And you go past, Craig and Minchey, you get like the Old Dominion quarterback, Colton Joseph. He might be one to watch for. But really, you dig deeper into that list, and I don't see a lot of guys that you want to go for. So if BC is really serious about spending money to get the guys that they're going to want to get, whether it's Craig, whether it's Kenny Minchey, you're going to have to spend again. Because they're a private school, we don't know what they paid Dylan Larnagin. But we do know that they're looking up what they're spending this year. This is a great way to start, right? Obviously, BC has a lot of holes to fill. It doesn't matter if you bring in a great quarterback if your offensive line is going to get them killed. I said before, one way to look at this is you could have kept Dylan Larnagin and just fixed the offensive line. You probably would have been fine. But maybe you want to try to – maybe what BC saw is that Larnagin was a safe quarterback. He could do a lot of the basics things right, but you wanted to elevate this. You wanted to take that Darian Mensah type of risk or Chandler Morris, where you bring in a guy that if you put the right pieces around him could take your team to that next level. Minchey certainly looks like he's there. Craig looks like he's there. These are guys, Minchey, was ready to start if they were down to the wire with CJ Carr. Craig has thrown a ton of passes. You got two guys now, both with experience that you could bring in and you could make your starting quarterback. I like either of these guys, but this portal is so weird. I got to say, as someone who covers this, the portal has changed quite a bit. Because they're going towards that opening in January 2nd, in years past, that week after Thanksgiving was insane. Like, everybody entered the portal. And you knew what the portal class was going to look like almost instantly because it was just, boom, that's where it was at. It's now like drips and drabs because they can't officially enter until January 2nd, so there's no reason to rush. And I think you guys know what that means. Many of these guys aren't entering the portal until they find where they're going next. I don't know if that's what, schools like BC are doing, but that's kind of the unwritten rule. Like, they're going to enter the portal because they know where they're going. So it's entering in drips and drabs, but BC are connected heavily to Craig and Minchey. Who do you want? I want to hear it in the comment section. Speaking of Notre Dame, I've been getting ripped online by Notre Dame fans. Well, I got some things to talk about. Let's get into it in just a moment. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994 with 48 teams. For the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment you hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Just pull up the app. Get the layout. You can see exactly where your seats are going to be. You can see how much it's going to cost with no hidden fees on many of them. You're going to know exactly what you're paying, which I love. No last-minute surprises at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go, Game Time. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And if you want to become an all-access member, we have all-access episodes. I did one yesterday, a special all-access episode talking about two defensive coordinator position coach candidates, I thought were for BC. Today, I'm going to give you one position I really hope BC goes after hard in the portal, and a name that came up that I would love to see at Boston College at that position. Could be a game changer. I'll give that to all my All Access members. You guys sign up below. Do that soon. So let's talk about Notre Dame. On Sunday, the world coming out of South Bend and probably South Boston as well was flipped on its head as they were left out of the playoffs as Miami gets in, while Notre Dame was on the outside. Now Notre Dame, their AD went on the Dan Patrick show on Monday to say that he felt that the relationship between the ACC and Notre Dame had been permanently damaged, I think were the words he used. Well, here's my thoughts. And before we get into this, let me preface all of this before Notre Dame fans start hammering me with, threats or whatever. This isn't me talking as a Boston College person. I don't care. I'm a fan of college football. My team's gone right now. They are done for the year. This is me as someone who follows college football. I know you can understand this and understands logic. So here's some logic for the Notre Dame fans. You lost to Miami head to head. Boom. End of discussion. If you want to get mad at Alabama, who had 3 losses making it. Don't get mad at Miami. And part of this, we're mad at the ACC thing, is they're feeling that the ACC pushed for Miami to get in and not for Notre Dame. Well, here again, this is logic talking. This is not a Boston College fan. Use your brain for a second. This happened because Notre Dame is not a full member of the ACC. If Notre Dame makes it into the playoffs and Miami doesn't, guess how much money the ACC makes? 0. They make nothing. So why should the ACC stump for Notre Dame over a team that's going to bring in revenue? A team that is fully in. That makes complete logical sense. But hey, Notre Dame fans are still screaming and yelling that the ACC, and their AD is doing it too, has stabbed them in the back. No, look, the ACC owes you nothing because the ACC bailed you out in 2020 when you were out, on your butt, and they brought you into that conference the year of COVID and helped you find a home for a year. The ACC has been giving you preferential treatment so you can get yourself schedules that can get you into the playoffs. You bring in some money, but not what you think it does. So don't give me that the ACC owes Notre Dame anything. If Notre Dame wants what Miami gets, join the conference. You don't get to put your toes in and then get mad when you don't get the benefits that another school does that is completely waded into the ACC waters. That's not how any of this works. So this whining, this complaining for Notre Dame fans and their AD and all this other stuff. Let me also say this. They quit and not even joined a bowl game. What message is that? You got Rudy out there. The story that every Notre Dame fan and all the people in South Boston can talk about this guy who doesn't quit. And he gets that one play and it's a big deal and it's this movie that everyone loves. Notre Dame just quit. That's what they did. They quit. So, yeah, spare the Rudy analogies from now on out because you're a school that quit. I got so tired of listening to them talk about this. Miami beat you. You're not a full member of the ACC, so they shouldn't have to stump for you. And go complain about Alabama. That's what it is. You lost. You're out. Boo-hoo. That's my thoughts on that. Again, if your response to that is, oh, AJ, you just cover Boston College. Figure something else out. Yeah, I cover Boston College, but I'm a college football fan. I like the sport itself. It's bigger than my school. Okay? So be better. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk more about what's going on in the transfer portal. We got lots to talk about, and we'll be finding out more targets, more things as Kenyatta Watson is taking over. We want to hear about what's going on there. We'll hopefully get some details on that soon. Thank you all for following me. Follow me on AJ Black 247 on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. And again, become an all access member. Details are in the show notes. Give yourself a Christmas present. A Christmas present of me and Boston College Talk. And we'll see you all again soon for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.